And we're live. Welcome to Terry Talks Movies live chat. So I decided to do one because it's springtime, and springtime is the time of enjoying yourself. And the trees are starting to get some blossoms on them, and the weather's getting very, very slightly warmer. So kind of enjoying that. Let me just adjust my enormous screen here so that I can adjust my quite small camera on the enormous screen. Yeah, so decided to do another live stream because A, they're fun, and B, I don't have to I don't have to edit them, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And that's an advantage. I do like editing video, but there are times when you want a little bit of a break from that, and that's what live streams are for. And also they're more interactive and more in the moment, which is kind of nice as well. You can be on the chat too if you'd like to. There's chat there, and also I don't mind if people do super chats and donate to the channel because that is fun. How's the audio coming through? Is it middle-aged geek girl? Thank you very much. So, yeah, I'm going through the the Roadcaster, my really good audio deck here. I want to test the sounds while we've got not too many people here. So, if somebody could tell me whether these sounds work. That noise is from the movie Stone, the Australian exploitation film from 1973, and it's an actor called Vincent Gill, who unfortunately died this week. So I've got him on my soundboard, doing his scream of Satan from the movie. So Vale, Vincent Gill. I've got a few other ones as well. Let me just see what I've got here.
You do it for Randolph Scott.
Randolph Scott.
There's some Blazing Saddles. There's this one as well.
It's good to be the king.
A little bit of Mel Brooks there. What else have we got? Something from All About Eve. This was left on the soundboard from last time.
Miss Caswell is an actress, a graduate of the Copacabana School of Dramatic Art.
A bit of George Sanders and a bit of Betty Davis, if I'm not mistaken.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
So, yeah, I got this thing working finally, which is kind of cool. And then, of course, I've got some William Conrad from The Naked Jungle.
Marabunta.
Marabunta. I've got Slurp as well, for no good reason. And I've got the other sound things which just come with the deck, which is things like crickets, rim shot. So I can pretty much make sounds while I'm doing the live stream. So, yeah, let me just get my list out. And the list, of course, is under all the cabling that I've got to put out to make this work. Yeah, so as I said, super chats are okay. I will put up a sound for people who do super chats and acknowledge them a little bit faster. I think I've got things blocked for the spam bots. I'm not sure, but I believe I do have a filter in now so that the spam bots trying to direct people to adult sites aren't going to work. No guarantees, but we'll see. Here we go. Yep. Hi, Eric. Thanks for being here, and Lee as well. So, yeah. Let me see. What have I got? What are we going to start? We'll start with the things that I've got lately, because I've got some discs lately. These aren't the ones I get from Umbrella Entertainment. By the way, the videos I've done with Umbrella Entertainment's products, they love them, and they've promised me they're going to send me more stuff. So expect more kind of exploitation movies, more horror films, more of the double features, and the other things that Umbrella Entertainment are doing. They've been really generous, and I kind of like having them on board. Hi, FG. Yeah, one for the algorithms. So I've got a couple of Imprint films. Imprint's the Australian company doing some really good stuff. I'm not going to do that one because it's a double up and I'm going to get it to somebody else. So let me see what I've got. I've got a couple of Imprint films, which I've got on spec. They're not my usual kind of thing, but they had a buy two, get one free in JB Hi-Fi, which is the big box store that still sells DVDs and Blu-rays here. Lee, A24 films are punching above their weight. They're doing such a wide quality, like a genre range of films these days. They're doing quite well. But this one I've got Wayne Wang film with Jeremy Irons and Gong Li. It's a thing called, is that coming up? Is that reversed for everybody or is it just reversed for me? Can somebody let me know whether that cover looks reversed? Because it's coming up on my one as reversed and it's confusing the hell out of me. Okay, thanks for that, middle-aged kid girl. But yeah, it's a kind of romance set in Hong Kong, just as Hong Kong is handed over to the Chinese. Jeremy Irons, there's a lot of extras on it. I wanted to kind of go outside my comfort zone in this kind of movie and try that. So I'm going to watch that one and enjoy it with a little bit of luck. But all of it quality product and all of it really well presented by Imprint. Then I got a Richard Dreyfuss comedy about a gambler called Let It Ride, which I know nothing about. I don't even think I watched this when it came out on VHS back in the day. But who else has it gotten it? David Johansen, also known as Buster Poindexter, Alan Garfield, and Giorgio Moroder did the music for it. So that's going to be interesting. There's your back cover, which again, this one was a kind of a blind buy. So I'm a sucker for buy two, get one free. And at the moment, JB Hi-Fi also has 20% off Blu-rays and DVDs. So I'm kind of tempted. DB Cooper, Let It Ride's one of your favorite movies. Great. I'm looking forward to watching it. Going to have to sit down and watch some more things. Now, this one's put out by AGFA, which is the American Genre Film Archive. It's a movie I already had, and I had it directly from the production company, but this one also has a second movie on it, and it has two different versions of the first movie, including, well, I should tell you what it is. FG says, I saw Let It Ride, it's amusing. I love Robbie Coltrane as the guy in the betting window. Robbie Coltrane's always good value in things, but anyway, this one I picked up for, I think, about $25. It's Who Killed Captain Alex plus Bad Black. Now, the reason I got this is it's got both versions of Who Killed Captain Alex. The version with the VJ voiceover and the version without it, which I didn't know still existed. It's also got Bad Black with VJ Emmy on it as well. Director's commentary, behind the scenes, trailers and commercials, welcome video in 14 countries, fan videos for Who Killed Captain Alex. If you haven't seen these are from Uganda. They're from a small kind of slum area or a ghetto area outside Kampala called Wakaliga. And the interesting thing about this is you get both the Blu-ray and the DVD. And even better for me, stickers. Oops, got my Hollywood stickers on there. And yeah, so I'm a real big supporter of Hollywood because I like what they're doing and they're doing more movies. And I kind of like that. And I just got an Amazon delivery. Hang on. This is live Amazon delivery. No idea what this is, but it's probably a video. So hang on. Chew it open like a barbarian. It actually is, you know. This one I got because I kind of like it now. This one is probably going to get some people not liking me as much as they did before. But I picked it up. It's 40th anniversary edition of this film. And it's a feel-good movie, and it's kind of vulgar pleasure of mine. That was actually done live. Crazy. Thank God it's Friday with Donna Summer in it. It's got Jeff Goldblum as well. This is one of those, it was kind of on the end of the disco era. But I kind of like this one a lot. Now, I haven't had a chance to see it because, of course, watch it because, of course, it just arrived. But not too much difference on the covers there. A little bit of Donna Summer. Yeah, but I thought I'd pick that one up because it is a kind of vulgar pleasure. Have a look on the back. You can see all of the different characters in there. It's about a whole bunch of people on a Saturday night going to a disco in Los Angeles, and Jeff Goldblum's the sleazy disco owner who's trying to nail a married woman who goes there with her uptight husband. It's a groovy song. It's a groovy movie for me, and I kind of like it. And it's one of those movies that I'll go to. And there goes Luna. Luna just turned up. She's not turning up on camera, but she's just off camera. But yeah, thank God it's Friday. I like a lot above the quality of the movie, because it's just got an enthusiasm and an energy that I really appreciate. So I'll have to add that to the list. This one I was surprised I didn't have a copy of. I checked my list. I've got a phone app that I can scan the barcodes and find out whether I got that. Yeah, but yeah, Eric, you saw Luna jump up. She's now demanding pats. Ow, she just bit me. So we've got 0 days without biting, Sally Jane. Ow, she bit me twice. Luna, what are you doing that for? But anyway, this one I picked up because it's a cinema cult version. It's very bare bones. It did have the Oscar-winning song from 1978, FG. I think it's The Last Dance. Yeah, it was really weird because I was in the biggest Chinese supermarket in Melbourne a couple of weeks ago with Sal, middle-aged good girl, and we were buying things because you can buy some really weird and wonderful food there at a good price. And we're there on a Friday, and they played Donna Summer singing Last Dance from Thank God It's Friday. And I thought, geez, that's meta. Having on a Friday a song from Thank God It's Friday and Donna Summer singing it. It was very odd. So yeah, Luna's going to wander around. She's settling down now. I think she's had a bite on me. She's having a bath, so that's good. But anyway, back to this one, Darkman. I didn't have a copy of Darkman for some reason. Sam Raimi's kind of superhero, kind of vigilante movie. I like Darkman a lot. Liam Neeson's good in it. Frances McDormand's in it as well. There's an Australian actor as well, Colin Friels. A good Australian actor, does a shit American accent. But Colin Friels I saw on the stage in the 1980s. Back when I was unemployed as a young man, they had this thing in Sydney where the best theatre companies in the country, particularly Nimrod, would have one session every time they did a play, which was just for unemployed people. You just had to bring your unemployment form in, and they would let you have a whole special matinee of seeing a stage play for unemployed people and people on other pensions. So for a while there, I got to see some of the best new Australian plays for nothing at the best theatre company in the country. And Colin Friels was in a play I saw called Il Magnifico, which was a kind of retelling of the story of Lorenzo de Medici, done as a modern property developer. But he was great. On the stage, Colin Friels was fantastic. He was the first actor I saw on a stage who really kind of taught me the magic of stage performance. But anyway, Darkman, really liked that one. It's a lot of fun. Yep. As middle-aged geek girl says, don't forget to like the video. It helps with the algorithm. Like when I tuned in, I was like Terry's work says, Eric, thank you. Let's have a look there. But yeah, I'm going to rewatch Darkman because it's not Sam Raimi's best film. I don't want to venture which one is. But it's really great. I would totally ignore the sequels, though, because the sequels, which I think had Arnold Vosloo in them, were really shit. I think a remake may be good for this one, not with Liam Neeson, because he's gone in a totally other direction. He's the new Charles Bronson these days. But Darkman, and I picked this up really cheaply as well. It wasn't very much at all. And there are absolutely no extras, but I don't mind having a bare bones copy of a movie that I like. Have a sip. Colin White, yeah, didn't even know Darkman had sequels. I would stay ignorant of Darkman's sequels, mate, because they were total shit. They are really kind of cashing in on the first one and don't have anywhere near the energy. Doesn't have Liam Neeson in either sequel. Doesn't have Frances McDormand in it. Has Larry Drake playing one of the villains from the first movie in it. But yeah, they were those kind of cashing in 1990s kind of films, and you really don't want to watch them. Eric says Darkman's makeup effects amazing. Yeah, that they are. They work really well. They're practical physical effects, and they work well. And I like the way that Sam Raimi in Darkman gives us moments of kind of comic book transitions and comic book montages that really sell it as a kind of pulp adventure film. The concept's good. I like the idea of kind of crossing Batman with Phantom of the Opera. I think that works really well. And Liam Neeson does a good job of giving us the pain of, what's his name? Peyton Westlake. Yeah, the character that he plays in Darkman. Yeah, ignorance is bliss on that. Yeah, so yeah, Darkman's fine. This one I've got because I don't mind a little bit of Wes Anderson. And this is one of the ones I picked up, buy two, get one free. People tell me this one's fine, and I haven't seen it yet, but Wes Anderson's movies are always really visually interesting. And it's The French Dispatch, which again has Frances McDormand in it. Tilda Swinton's in there as well. Let's see who else. Adrian Brody, Bill Murray, Jeffrey Wright, Owen Wilson, Benicio del Toro, Timothy Chalamet, Léa Seydoux, Matthew Almeric, Stephen Park. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that one. I know very, very little about it. But occasionally I want to dip into quality cinema and cinema that is well regarded by highbrow people. But The French Dispatch, I kind of like that cover too. That's almost like a Tintin kind of cover on that one. Let me just see if I can get into focus properly. Ross Gilton says French Dispatch is a piece of art, amazing cinema. Yeah. Heard Raimi wanted to do a Shadow movie, says Mick 507. Couldn't, so he did Darkman. Yeah, the Shadow. I actually don't mind the Shadow movie with Alec Baldwin in it. That one kind of worked for me. I think that it's got a certain kind of 1930s pulp sensibility about it. And it's got Tim Curry in it, so what's not to love about that? But yeah, the Shadow could have been kind of darker and grittier, but it came out in the shadow of Batman, the Tim Burton version of Batman. So it kind of leaned that way a little bit. But it's worth checking out. I believe I've got a copy of it, though. I haven't got that far in my scanning of barcodes back in the back room to quickly be able to tell you whether I've got a copy of the Shadow. But if I haven't, I probably should get a copy of it. That's one of the things I'm doing. I've got a little plan where I'm doing more movies that came out about 20 years ago, particularly genre films. And I'm picking up copies of some really interesting hidden gems, in a sense, of that kind of cinema, really cheaply on eBay secondhand. And sometimes it's Blu-rays, and I'm getting them for like $5 to $7 on eBay. And I've got two of them that I'm waiting on the second one, but I've got two of them that I really want to. In fact, one of them's in this pile I've got here. Two of them I really want to review because I really like them. But this one I've already done a video about. I did a video way back when saying the original Indiana Jones was a sex worker. And I've now got the imprint version of that very film, a little film from 1954, I believe. Yep. Secret of the Incas with Charlton Heston, Robert Young, Nicole Murray, Thomas Mitchell, who is great in it, as he was in everything, and Yima Sumac. It's set in the Andes, and basically, this is the movie that gave us Indiana Jones. Strelnikov joining us from Georgia, the state, not the country evening. Hi, Strelnikov. Thank you very much for coming in. But, yeah, Secret of the Incas. Charlton Heston plays a guy who does tours for tourists in Peru. And basically, his side hustle on those tours is sleeping with the wives of the tourist guys and getting a little bit of money from them on the side. So basically, he's a sex worker. Only movie where Charlton Heston was a sex worker. There's lots of extras on this one too, because Imprint always do some good things. There is the inside cover, which is really great. It's got audio commentaries. It's got film historian stuff. It's got the live radio version of Secret of the Incas. If you haven't seen this film, you should really check this out because it's a lot of fun. It's in Academy ratio. It's not widescreen. It's in Academy ratio, but it is in color. And they did some second unit work in Peru, up around Machu Picchu and other places like that. Yeah, but Secret of the Incas, you should check out. And I really like the fact that Imprint put this up because they'd already done The Naked Jungle, which was the other movie I talked about in that video I did. But doing Secret of the Incas was definitely a very cool thing. Paul Cook, hi, I've been a fan since Paleo Cinema podcast days. Yeah, thanks, Paul, and thank you for the long-term loyalty, mate. I really appreciate that. For those of you who don't know, I did it for a long time, since 2007 almost. I did a podcast called Paleo Cinema Podcast, and I did it by myself pretty much with a few guests every now and then. But it was kind of plateauing out, and there wasn't a really easy way to monetize it when I decided I wanted to monetize what I was doing. And so I shifted over to YouTube, and I haven't looked back since. So I've got two. Each video I do, by the way, has links to the archive podcasts. I did two podcasts. I did Paleo Cinema Podcast, which was movies that were more than 20 years old at the time I made them, the podcasts. And I also did the Martian Drive-In podcast, which was my science fiction and genre film podcast as well. So I did that. Peter Cushion, hi from Ireland. Good call on the Love Witch, by the way. Thank you. Love Witch, it's kind of, I'm conflicted about Love Witch for a simple reason. In that Annabella, the person who directed and wrote Love Witch, is a little bit of a turf. She doesn't really think that trans women are women, and I've kind of got a little problem with that. But leaving that aside, I like her movies. There are so many what we call milkshake ducks out there when you're a film buff. I did a video about milkshake ducks, come to think of it. I've done a video about everything. But yeah, milkshake ducks are, you see a video on YouTube or TikTok or wherever of a duck drinking a milkshake, and you love the duck and you love the milkshake, and you share all the video with your friends, and everything's really cool. And then you find out that the duck is a Nazi or a racist or a homophobe or something like that. And you've shared it all, and you kind of liked it, and you were really emotionally invested, and you have like a parasocial relationship with the duck. And then you find out it's a really bad duck. So that's what a milkshake duck is. But anyway, I'm moving right along. This one I'm going to do a review of. I've got two movies. I've got another one and this one that I'm going to do. It's directed by Vincenzo Natali, a Canadian director who really did some interesting work for a while there, around the turn of the century and a little bit later. It's a film with Jeremy Northam and Lucy Liu called Sci-fi. I think this movie should be better known than it is. I'm not going to talk much about it right now because I want to save my ammunition for when I do a whole video about this and another movie. And yeah, this one's kind of cyberpunk. It's a industrial espionage movie. It's a love story. It's set in the near future. It is really, really a little bit of a hidden gem. So I'm going to review that one, but I'm not going to talk about it now. Did I see Bringing Back Alive, the Frank Buck one with Bruce Boxleitner in it? Yeah, I did. There was also Tales of the Gold Monkey with Stephen Collins in it. And Stephen Collins, who was also in the first Star Trek movie, turned out to be another milkshake duck because he was a pedophile. So, you know, there you go. I'm sure somebody will make Milkshake Duck as a title for a movie. Let's see. I've enjoyed literature from Orson Scott Card and Hubbard and Ayn Rand, even though the characters are problematic. No, well, their characters are. You definitely. It's an ongoing discussion we've all got to have. Is, you know, do we continue to like movies knowing that the filmmakers are pieces of shit? I'll kind of cherry pick a little bit. I'll be honest with you. I cherry pick a little bit. There are people I know are bad people whose movies and products I'll continue to like. Some of them are dead, some of them aren't. But it's horrible that we have to do that. It's horrible. Yeah. The question is, do we know too much about these people, and should we know less? In which case, their sins and transgressions are hidden from us, or should we be able to know to whom we're giving money. It's a long ongoing discussion we could all have, but I don't think there are ever any easy answers for it. I think that we each make our judgments for individual artists based on our own individual histories and our own individual proclivities and our own individual moral compasses. Yeah, Chinatown is a great film, even though Polanski raped a child. There goes Luna again. Speaking of Bruce Box Night, I know they made physical copies of new remastered Babylon 5 that are on streaming now. Yeah, I like Babylon 5. I did like it at the time. I still like it. I think it's really good long-form storytelling, and it was very much a pioneer in that format for episodic television, even though it was on cable, it was still television. But yeah, I did kind of briefly meet J. Michael Straczynski once, tall guy, but he's done some interesting things as well, including Sense8. If you haven't seen Sense8, that series was groundbreaking in its own ways, particularly regarding representation. And I think it got shortchanged by the streaming service it was on. But yeah, Babylon 5 is great. Eric says, yeah, I think in modern life we know more about people. Try to judge the content, not the person who created it, but that's just you. Yeah, it's a difficult one, but for me there are kind of lines I draw in the sand. Certain people like pedophiles and other people like that, I really can't enjoy their stuff anymore. And again, I've known too many people who are abused, and I was physically abused as a child myself, so you kind of draw those lines. Yeah, Jimmy Savile and Gary Glitter have been deleted. Good. I mean, they were monstrous human beings. Gary Glitter still is. And but let's get off that subject because it's quite a gloomy subject. Does anybody have a question? I'll do a little bit of question. I've actually got a whole bunch of TV box sets here as well that I'm going to get through, which are going to be my recommendations. Some of them are kind of obvious. Some of them are a little bit of outliers, but I'll get into them later. And there's an enormous pile of them there because they're thick box sets. But let me look through the chat. Yeah, bringing back a lot. There was actually a TV series of Casablanca done with David Soul at one stage as well, which is weird, and it didn't last very long. Do I enjoy science fiction TV? Yeah, I have ever since about 1963, when my uncles first showed me an episode of The Outer Limits that scared the shit out of me. And yeah, ever since then, definitely. Remember when the first episode of Lost in Space, before it jumped the shark, came out, and everybody in the schoolyard was talking about it when I was a kid. That first episode, they loved the robot, they loved the spaceship, they loved the whole lot. And it was the subject matter that every kid was talking about in the schoolyard. Mick 507, just watch the Satan Bug. Thanks for the review. Yeah, I'm a big George Maharis fan. By the way, it was his birthday yesterday. He's like 90 or something like that. But George Maharis is such an interesting actor, mostly because he got cancelled. Bruce Boxlight was a good friend of James Arness, who was his mentor too. Good. Which is the Outer Limits, was it? It was the one with the woman who turns into a bee. I forget the name of it. It might be Zzz or something like that. But that one scared the hell out of me. I think it was more the atmosphere and the music than the woman turning into a bee. But my uncles used to do that. Every now and then they'd take me to see things. They took me to see This Island Earth. It was being repeated in the cinema. And it took me to see that, and it scared the shit out of me. And I was kind of okay with that because the things that were happening in real life were scarier than anything I ever saw on a screen. Did a personal research, speaking of Bruce Lee, after one of your recent shows. I knew that Chuck Norris was a student and friend of Bruce Lee's. Yeah, the interesting thing is I've actually been on a few chats, like a Facebook threads, with a couple of people who know a lot about the martial arts. And one of the things that killed Bruce Lee, which I only found out here, is Bruce Lee trained really hard every single day. And there's a point at which if you train really hard every single day without a break, it starts affecting your ability for your body to do things. Your immune system gets compromised. A whole bunch of different systems get compromised. So that when he was given medication by the person, because he said he had a headache, which was probably generated by over-exercise, that cerebral edema was caused by the fact that his body just was out of kilter, even though he was incredibly fit and incredibly fast. The fact that he overtrained was ultimately what killed him, which is kind of, if somebody had the ability to go, hey, Bruce, take 2 days off every week. If he had done that, he'd probably still be alive to this day and making Expendables movies. Yeah, Donna Passwick, it is a good episode. I'm going to revisit some Outer Limits at some stage soon. I'm getting in a retro mood, and even though there is some stuff, new stuff that I really enjoyed, I'm enjoying She-Hulk at the moment because I'm a Marvel fanboy, but I also like breaking the fourth wall, and I like the fact that they're doing something different with the superhero genre. And I like the callbacks, and I like the fact that it deep references the comic books, which I like. And also, what else have I watched lately on streaming? So many things. I actually watched Samaritan, the Sylvester Stallone old superhero movie that just came out on Netflix. It's not bad, but it's not great. It's kind of in the middle there. And the director is an Australian, oddly enough, who was working in America. And it's one of those weird movies where it was cut in half. They had to stop production for like 7 months because of COVID. And those hiatuses really mess with a movie for some reason. So there's that problem. The other problem I found out with Netflix movies, Netflix and Amazon and all of those guys who are doing big movies with fairly big name stars in them, and they've got $200 million budgets on these things. Here's the problem with those things. And you watch the movies, you watch all the ones with, it's got Gal Gadot, and it's also got Ryan Reynolds in it, and it's also got a whole bunch of other people, Dwayne Johnson, all of those big movies that are coming out in the streaming services. And you see they're a $200 million movie, but they don't look as good as a $200 million movie. I only found this out by looking around and talking to people. Problem is, they're not really $200 million movies. What they are is a movie that pays $100 million to the actors because they're not going to get any box office. So they pay them at a higher rate to get them. And then they make $100 million movie once they've got those actors. And so the movies aren't as good as the names that come before the titles would suggest they're going to be. And they're not as spectacular and not as over the top. So there's a really weird changing of the way movies are made being done by streaming services. Let's look at the thing. Gig Young, absolutely. Gig Young murder-suicide with his younger wife. I have real problems with Gig Young because of that. Alcoholics and guns are never a good combination. In fact, if guns were more available when I was a child here in Australia, I probably wouldn't be alive because my father would have had one and probably killed me. But Simpson was a black man who killed a white woman, and Gig Young murdered his wife. Yeah, well, both of them were bastards. Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Yeah, I like it. I like the fact that they're going back to old school Star Trek. I think that they kind of, it's not the nostalgia that something like Star Trek Picard is, where basically it's just a curtain call at the end of those actors' careers, in a sense. And Strange New Worlds has got that vitality, and it goes back to that utopian ideal that Star Trek had of, trying to make the world a better place and trying to be an inclusive and kind of curious about the universe kind of society. I think that Strange New Worlds goes back to that and does it very, very well. New George Miller movie with Tilda Swinton finding a genie in a bottle looks interesting. Yeah, 3,000 Years of Longing. I like everybody involved in it. I like Idris Elba. I like Tilda Swinton. I like George Miller as well. I don't think it's going to do as well as many other George Miller movies, but I'll be interested to see it when I get an opportunity to, because I think he's a great storyteller and a great visual storyteller. And it's based on a novel, so I think that it's also going to have really good structural bones for telling a story. Woody Eblom, thanks, Terry. You've exposed me to a lot of new movies, especially non-US ones. Do you have any marker movies? Are you films you have friends watch to see if they have similar taste? No, I just assume that my friends have got good taste, and most of the time, it's like saying, do you cook with your friends? No, but I don't mind cooking something for my friends or showing them foods they haven't tried before. But I think that people who I've got friends who are quite conservative in their movie watching. And friends who will only watch upmarket quality art house films, and I'm kind of fine with that. And I've also got friends who have wonderfully lowbrow tastes in movies. I judge my friends on different criteria than the films they watch, which is odd given the things I spend so much of my time doing. But I think that anybody who says they don't watch black and white movies because they're black and white, I think that's definitely a red flag. I had a friend who dated somebody who said that, and they stopped dating them for that reason. But yeah, Strangely World was perfectly acceptable Star Trek show. Colin says some episodes were kind of filler, but the good ones were excellent. I want more. Yep, and middle-aged geek girl loves bad shark movies. Every time I find a bad shark movie, I give her a copy or steer her in the direction of it, and she's a happy little camper. Related to Star Trek, saw Patrick Stewart in an episode of I, Claudius the other night, played Sejanus the Right Bastard. It was a fine BBC production. Yeah, I mean, I kind of like actors who have that stage background, and you know, Patrick Stewart had that Shakespearean background. Yeah, and it gives them such a really good toolkit as actors to have done Shakespeare, because you get to do comedies, you get to do dramas, you get to do tragedy, you get to do things that are almost like splatter films like Titus Andronicus. So as a training ground for any kind of actor in any country, Shakespeare is great, because if you're in an acting company and you're doing Shakespeare, you're going to learn so many different kinds of acting, so many different kinds of story, that you have that toolkit throughout your career. Any films you come to mind where the soundtrack is great but the movie stinks? Not that fun. Let me think. That's a good question. I'm going to have a sip and think about that one. Let's see. No, this is just off the top of my head. So you've kind of caught me on the hop there, Mick 507. I think if the soundtrack's good, chances are the movie's going to be good, and particularly the needle drops, the kind of music from other areas that are used in a movie. You really well select, if they're really well selected and they suit the scenes and they suit the tone of the film, I think the movie's going to be entertaining at the very least. But I think that there are soundtracks I don't like. I'm not that fond of John Williams soundtracks for those big blockbuster films he did. And some of John Barry's soundtracks are not as good as they could have been. But I think that each of them have done good work. I mean, most of John Williams' good work that I like are Lost in Space theme, Land of the Giants theme, that kind of thing, from very early in his career. But I think that particularly with needle drops, and any movie that has good needle drops in its soundtrack is going to be at least entertaining. And if they have really ordinary ones, like everybody does, I had Hendrix thing all along the Watchtower, that kind of thing. If they have the same needle drops as so many other films, chances are that film's going to be shit. And there are a whole bunch of films that use the same songs from the 60s in their movies, and they never do it very well. Mark Romanek's Static from 1985. No, I haven't seen it. Let me get my pen and paper because I've got a pen and paper handy. And, of course, all of the discs I just showed you are falling around here. So I'm going to have to move them around a little bit. But let me grab a pen from over here. Nothing is convenient. By the way, my screen just went dark because I accidentally hit the monitor off button. Don't know if that's going to affect you guys, but I hope it doesn't. And I'm back on the screen. I'm going to write these things down. And I usually get middle-aged gig or tick, but I can't ask her to do anything. Static 1985. Got that written down. Let's have a look here. The debates among 007 fans. Let me have a look here. Casino Royale. Yeah, I mean, that was a terrible movie, mostly because they had like 35 writers and 15 directors and 77 stars. But I can watch it now and then. I can watch it as kind of in the same way I can watch Barbarella. I like Barbarella more than I like Casino Royale, but they both got that kind of overindulgence of the 1960s, which we can see through a more nostalgic lens these days than we could at the time. St. Martin Square, 40s film, Charles Lawton, Vivian Lee, Rex Harrison. No, I'm going to write that one down too. Hamburger Hill. Yeah, Hamburger Hill. Yeah, it's full of glass soundtracks. Are always interesting. Give me a few moments here. Oh, here we go. We've got them now. Here come the porn bots. Yeah, Justin Kipper, thanks for the Philip Glassing. There's an old knock joke, you know, knock knock, who's there? Philip Glass. But yeah, let's see. Is middle-aged geek girl getting rid of those? Hide user from the channel. Neil Masterson did every British soundtrack for 30 years. Yeah, he did. He turned up even if he wasn't doing the writing of the composing of the thing. He always kind of conducted the orchestra. It was usually the London Philharmonic or something like that. Let's have a look here. But yeah, I'm going to get on to having a sip of drink for start. Not exactly soundtrack, but I always love the Purple Rain soundtrack, but the movie is meh. Yeah, Anthony, man, I was never a fan of Prince. When I was in Minneapolis back in 1998, some friends of mine took me on a tour around town. And the big thing they wanted to show me was, apart from all the other big things, the venue where Prince became famous. And I went, yeah, that's great. And I really wasn't that interested in it. Yeah, the Porn Bots is a great name for a punk band. Yeah, it's also a great name for a 1960s science fiction adult film as well. But yeah, I mean, I love soundtracks. I did that video a little while ago about some soundtracks, and I just grabbed them randomly off the shelf. There were so many more I could have put into that video, but it didn't do really great as far as the audiences are concerned. But nonetheless, it's there's so many cool soundtracks out there, and the deeper you dive, the more you find, which is lovely. Yeah, hi Woody. Yeah, in Minnesota. I love Minnesota. I spent 2 weeks in Minneapolis in '98 with friends. I'll tell you the story too. I went to Uncle Hugo's, which is a science fiction bookshop in Minneapolis. It's since been rebuilt, but it was killed in the riots a couple of years ago. So I go walk into Uncle Hugo's, right? And I look around, I buy a few books, take them to Canada, say, can I have these books? And the person said, you must be Terry, because I knew an Australian science fiction fan was in town. And when I spoke with an Australian accent, they knew it was me. That place was so friendly, Minneapolis. I have a lot of love for it. What's the most unusual soundtrack I've heard? Forbidden Zone, the Richard Elfman one of Danny Elfman's film. That's a deeply weird soundtrack. I've got it on vinyl. But Forbidden Zone soundtrack is terrifically good. I guess my roommates were going to throw me out after playing the Alien soundtrack over and over. Yeah, I just had this thing. Once upon a time, I had some friends who threw 2 parties a year in Canberra. One at New Year's Eve, when each one went for about 5 days. One in the middle of winter, which is the middle of the year for us, and it gets very, very cold in Canberra, and one at New Year's Eve. And people would just like sleep on the couches in the lounge room and on the floor in the lounge room with sleeping bags. And the parties would go for 5 days. The way we would wake people up to have breakfast is we would play the version of Anything Goes from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom really loudly on the stereo. And that was the wake-up call for everybody all the time. A couple of videos ago, I picked up Waterloo, said I might review it. I haven't seen it yet. It's still sitting on the coffee table in the viewing room. But I want to do more of these indicator ones, and that's one of the indicator ones. So I will definitely look at it. Does Phoenix 5 get shown in Australia? No, I'm not even sure the originals are still around. There are some really shitty versions of it on YouTube. People have got from VHS tapes, but at that stage, we didn't preserve enough of our television output, unfortunately. Did I ever hear Alex North's original score for 2001? No, I know I've heard Lucky's score for Spartacus, but I haven't heard the one for 2001. Soundtrack for Superman the movie, hated the movie. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's aged as well as, say, the Tim Burton Batman movies aged. That Superman is kind of dumbed down in a sense. It doesn't have nuance. It doesn't have interesting characters, really, apart from Gene Hackman playing Lex Luthor. Yeah, Cromwell. Cromwell's interesting as well. I saw Cromwell when it came out, and I kind of like the idea of the fact they killed the king. Ross Gilton says, originally watched There Were a Weird Mob, and afterwards I looked for reviews on YouTube, couldn't find any. How do I feel about that film? It's an Englishman's view of what Australian people are like, and it was based on a novel by Nino Collodi, who was actually a white guy. He wasn't Italian at all. He was a guy called John O'Grady, who was writing under an Italian pseudonym about the Italian immigrant experience. But nonetheless, it was the first Australian movie that talked about non-white migration to Australia in a positive way. And I like it for that. I think all of the characters are kind of cliched and caricatures. But I love the passion of it. And I love the enthusiasm. And I love seeing my hometown, Sydney, as it was in the 1960s. There's not enough footage of Sydney in the 1960s available. And There Are Weird Mobs, one of the ways that you get to see it. And I kind of like that. For me, it's almost a love letter to Sydney as much as it is a film. Bernard Herrmann, yeah, absolutely, Eric. Bernard Herrmann's a great composer of soundtracks and things like that. Let's see. How can I hate Superman movies? One of my first cinema visits and watched it twice. Yeah, I think it's kind of ordinary in a modern context. If you rewatch it now, it's kind of like, yeah, okay. But are there any sports movies like Kane Nelson? Good question. Is one sports movie. 1967, made by Universal. It's a movie called Banning, with Robert Wagner and Anjanette Cohen was in it. Guy Stockwell, Dean Stockwell's brothers in it. It's a golf movie, which I really like because it's like peak 1960s Hollywood, in the same way that the movie The Oscar with Stephen Boyd is peak 1960s kind of Hollywood schlock. Banning is a real schlocky movie, but it's also a sports movie. And it makes golf interesting because the stakes are high for the characters as much as it is a golf movie. And I kind of like that. Just learned the actor who played Anderson Dawes in The Expanse was the son of Richard Harris. I forget his name. Middle-aged geek girl can tell you that that actor's name, and I'm sure she's more than happy to. First 2 Superman movies with Chris Reeves. Eric, yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying that they suffer in comparison to modern things in some ways. There we go. Middle-aged geek girl. She loves Jared Harris. She's the biggest Jared Harris fangirl in the known universe. Still to see the director's cuts of them. I've got the box set with the director's cuts of them on it. Superman 2. Was that supposed to be drool or droll, middle-aged geek girl? Got a hangnail there I had to get rid of. But anyway, people want me to get onto the box sets of TV series I've got here. Yes, it was drool. But yeah, Jared Harris, good actor. He does some really interesting work. But anyway, I'm going to get onto the box sets now. I'm going to go with the one that everybody's going to love because everybody should love it and everybody should have it in their collection. Yep, Chernobyl, Mad Men. Seen Jared Harris in Lost in Space in the 90s. I think he was too. Yeah, that late 1990. Was a 1998 Lost in Space reboot that didn't quite work. But anyway, this one, it's a 5-disc set. So I've got it on DVD, even though there is a Blu-ray release that came out afterwards with a busload of extras. And this one doesn't have any extras on it. And everyone's going to squee when they see this one. I'm going to rewatch this soon, by the way. Kolchak the Night Stalker. I've also got the 2 telly movies that came out by Kino Lorber. But this is, who did this? Madman here in Australia did a box set of Kolchak the Night Stalker, which is really good. I love it. I love Darren McGavin's stuff. Terrific series. Should have got on longer. Hang on a sec. Someone's passing me. Another Jared Harris series, The Terror, which she loves a lot. She kind of slunk into the room to hand it to me so we could continue the Jared Harris love. But anyway, yeah, Kolchak Night Stalker. I'm putting that back on the coffee table because I want to dip into some episodes of that. And I love it. And the 2 telly movies hold up really well. They are incredibly well written. I think Richard Matheson did them both. And the direction is really great for those 2. The series itself, the direction was good, but just rewatching the 2 telly movies on a really high definition was, yeah, the silly, not Kolchak did get silly, but they were doing Monster of the Week, and I think that it's a good sportsman film. Blue Chips with William Friedkin, absolutely. But yeah, Monster of the Week. If they had to broaden things out to more cultural stuff, and they might have made it work. But the thing to watch for Darren McGavin, if you want to see Darren McGavin really acting his ass off, Man with the Golden Arm, the Frank Sinatra movie about a junkie from the 1950s. Darren McGavin is the pusher in that movie, and he is fantastic in that film. Really, it's one of those first things where you go, Jesus, this guy can act. And Man with the Golden Arm, he is really, really good in that one. By the way, the Night Stalker did get a really bad reboot, which nobody liked because it was shit. But I think the short British series, The Tunnel, I haven't seen it. Strelnikov, sorry about that. Could have seen Lethal Weapon doing. Yeah, I mean, Mel Gibson's another one of those milkshake ducks, isn't he? Really, people loved Mel Gibson here in Australia until he made that phone call, basically abusing his girlfriend and being anti-Semitic at the same time. Always a good combination. But his career on this side of the water is basically non-existent these days. This one is a really old deep cut for me because I loved this series when it came out, and I'm glad I got a copy of it. Actually, yep, I'll keep the other one. But this one's got very 1970s style, and I love the fact that they shot some second unit stuff in Europe as well to kind of cover the fact that they shot most of the series in studio. Jason King with Peter Wingard. Gotta love this one. It is just great. There's actually some audio commentaries on this one as well. The only thing I liked about Philip Glass did the reboot theme. Wow. Let me see who else could play. Who could play Kolchak now? Fred Ward's dead, of course. Who could play Kolchak now? Let me think. Nicolas Cage in a Kolchak movie. That will work. Yeah, but by the way, that was a wig. While you're talking about the hair, Jack, that was a wig because Peter Wingard was balding. And the interesting thing is, if you look at the second unit stuff, where he's wandering around Paris and other locations in Europe, they've got a comb over to make his thinning hair look bouffant. But when he goes back to the studio, they've got this really good rug on his head. It's one of the charms of this movie. And it's got lots of interesting actresses in it as well. They have Catherine Schell in there. Ingrid Pitt turns up in there. I think Joanna Lumley may have turned up in Jason King. But, Jason King I love. Really groovy. It's got a good theme song too. Theme tune too. I forget who did the theme tune. But theme tune to Jason King and the titles are incredibly 1970s groovy. They are just... Laurie Johnson, thanks for that. Laurie Johnson's theme to that. Yes, I have heard Peter Wingard's album, When Sex Rears Its Head, which is odd because Peter Wingard was a gay man. But yeah, still like Jason King. Let's have a look. I'll show you who put it out. Umbrella put it out. I don't know whether they've still got any of them in stock, but you can go to Umbrella Entertainment's website and see. But the box set, had to have it when it came out because I was such a fanboy for the series. I'll pop these down on the floor because I'm running out of space here on the desk. And I've got to leave Luna's space on the other desk. Otherwise, she gets the shits with me. Here's a deep cut from Australia that only Australians know about. Jason King is a serious Austin Power. Jason King is cool. Basically, he was a spy cum author who wrote pulp novels based on his real life adventures, which is kind of odd. This one only Australians know about. No, I don't even know if I can show you all of the cover of this one. Let's see, hopefully. It's from the 1990s, and it's not the whole series, but I've got 2 discs of it. It's a TV series called Chances, which was basically a soap opera with lots of nudity and craziness in it. And it's from the 1990s, filmed here in Melbourne. Umbrella put this one out as well. But Chances is really weird. It's a soap opera, which in the last season, there's the other disc, by the way. In the last season, it went mad. In fact, it was always mad. It was always tongue-in-cheek. It was always over the top. There was copious nudity, mostly females, but also a bit of male nudity as well. But they had vampires in it. They had neo-Nazis in it. They had Satanists. It was a crazy series. Totally over the top. Good actors in it. Jeremy Sims and John Sheeran and a bunch of other actors. Michael Caton, who is an acting god here in Australia. But Chances is one you might want to try to find copies of. Yeah, Wingard was great in Night of the Year. Wingard was great in a number of things. He was also in The Innocents with Deborah Carr. He was the kind of ghost of the guy who had died in that as well, and didn't get any dialogue, but it was a great presence in that. Yeah, Brian Lindsay, they threatened to cut his wardrobe or mess up his cravat, and Jason King went crazy mad, which is kind of cool. I just like that style. I like that ITV action film stuff from that era, like The Persuaders and all those other series as well. The Adventurers with Gene Barry, I've got that one as well. I've got The Persuaders as well, come to think of it. But all those ITV action shows were kind of fun to watch back in the day. Let's see what I've got next on the pile. This one is recent, fairly recent. Ringo appeared a number of times as a villain in The Saint. Would have made a splendid Bond villain on the big screen. Yeah, he had that kind of menacing flamboyance about him, which I kind of liked. I think that he was an actor who, unfortunately, back when it was illegal for gay men to be gay, he was entrapped by the police a number of times, and it got in the newspaper, so it kind of impeded his career, unfortunately. This one's a kind of spin-off for series from another series called Tim and Eric's Awesome Show. Check it out with Dr. Steve Brule. If you haven't seen this with John C. Reilly in it, it is wonderfully, deliciously vulgar fun. And I like that a lot. And I like the fact that they've put it out on disc. Yeah, Drangus Dingus, yep. But Steve Brule, you if you got the kind of sense of humor that appreciates this stuff, check it out with Steve Brule. Is definitely a fun disc to look at. Speaking of Nicolas Cage, Mandy's a great looking film. I want to see Mandy. I haven't seen Mandy yet, but I'll go in with Nicolas Cage, and I also want to see his new one where he plays Nicolas Cage. But yeah, so. By the way, super chats are available if people want them. Let's see what else I've got here. I've got the prequel to Jason King, Department S, with Joel Fabiani and Rosemary Nichols and Peter Wingard playing Jason King. This is the precursor to Jason King, which has 3 agents of Department S who go out and do adventures. Now, the interesting thing about this is it was shocking to some people because their boss was played by a black actor, Dennis Alaba, I think his name is. And if I'm wrong, I apologize. But it was a deliberate choice. He was a good actor. He was right for the role. But people did get a little bit upset about that. But there's more episodes here than there is of Jason King, because have a look at that. Again, this is another Umbrella one. Richard Hart says, Chances used to air in the UK on Sky. Yeah, Chances is a vulgar pleasure. Some of the acting was great. Some of it was shit. But there was always a little bit of nudity. It wasn't really an Australian Dark Shadows because its tongue was much more in its cheek than Dark Shadows was, Anthony. But Chances is a vulgar pleasure, let's say. But yeah, I kind of like Department S as well. Again, you can see that Peter Wingard's hair is very different in there than it is in Jason King. And I've got this fascination with toupees on actors. It's an ongoing kind of obsession of mine. Middle-aged good girl says Chances was horrible. You were too young to watch Chances when Chances came out. Stan and Ollie was great. Yeah, Mr. C.S. Genzi. Yeah, I saw Stan and Ollie, and I kind of liked it. I think that it has good actors. Coogan was great in it. John C. Reilly was great in it as well. It sets its time and place really well too. In that England in the 1950s, during the rationing and the austerity there, it evokes that time really, really well, and I really like the fact that it does. Yeah, we're going to disagree on that one, middle-aged kid girl. Got to do that. Got to disagree with you on that one because Chances, you've got to just kind of roll with what it was. Yeah, and Paul Cook, I'm looking up at this thingy. Yeah, Wingard had a long-term relationship with Ellen Bates, and Yeah, and people didn't know that was. Peter Wingo was in an episode of The Prisoner. He played number 2, I believe, one of the many number 2s. When I was a kid, the Department S theme and intro used to scare the hell out of me, Richard Hart. Yeah, but again, it's Laurie Johnson stuff, but you might want to try to listen to it now. There are always YouTube channels when you type in Department S theme, it'll play it for you. And I like doing that occasionally where I go, oh, yeah, I want to rehear the theme song to Tombstone Territory or some other old obscure TV show. There's always someone who's uploaded it to YouTube, which is always a lot of fun. I don't know Out of Town, unfortunately. Were there any theme songs that were scary for me? Not really. There were opening credits for things that were scary for me. Brian says, just got a package, the new Blu-ray Simpson and 7 Miracles of the World. People are getting some Region A love. Gordon Scott was one of the more charismatic, the Italian sword and sandal muscle men. We used to have a thing on TV back in the day when the world was young and dinosaurs ruled the earth, which was called Amphitheater, where Channel 9 used to just show peplum movies on Saturday afternoons after the wrestling, which was on at 12 o'clock. They'd show peplum movies, and we'd watch them as well, and they were always really weird fun. And parents would say, go out and play outside, and you go, no, I'm watching this. Yep, Strelnikov, late great Leo McKern. A friend of mine, Carrie McKern, is Leo McKern's niece. And I met Carrie a couple of times when I've been up in Sydney lately. There's a UK TV show called Armchair Thriller where the theme song scared me. Also Hammer House Horror. I've got Hammer House of Horror on disc, and I think it's really great. Tarzan the Magnificent. Was Gordon Scott Tarzan in the one that Sean Connery appeared in as well? He might have been, because I know Sean Connery played a villain in a Tarzan movie in the late 1950s, if anybody wants to check that out. And his eyebrows were a lot hairier. Yeah, Liam McKern, fine actor. Really great Australian actor. Did some really interesting character roles. Late in his career, he made a couple of movies like Going North and a few other things like that, where he really showed the skills he'd acquired over like 50 years of a career. Tarzan's Greatest Adventure, Scott kills Connery, who's a total loudie. Absolutely. It's like watching Hell Drivers, where you see Connery and Patrick McGowan and Stanley Baker and Herbert Lom all in the same movie, just going toe to toe. Really great stuff. I like those gritty English dramas of that time. Yep. Binging The Prisoner is great. 17 episodes. It's only going to take you a day and a bit, although for toilet breaks and sleep. But yeah, The Prisoner had a great theme tune as well. That kind of with the thunder in the soundtrack as well, and the way it tells the origin story without any dialogue really works well. Oh yeah, Hell Drivers is a fantastic movie. I've got it on disc now, and for years and years I was telling people about Hell Drivers, and you couldn't get it on VHS or anything back in those days. But now it's come out on disc. Everybody has rediscovered it, and yeah, fantastic English crime drama, shot on a relatively small budget, shot in really shitty winter weather, but it works incredibly well. Let's see what else I got down here. Yep, I did 2 of these. Really going to have to dust these shelves a little more too, because this one's got dust on it. Fan of Buck Rogers' closing theme. Buck Rogers, doesn't everyone? Yeah. Never really liked that thing. Didn't get into Buck Rogers and all of those Glenn Larson things, Battlestar Galactica and all of that. They seem to be chasing the tail of much better productions. There you go. Traveling North with Julia Blake and Leo. Yeah, absolutely great movie. It really does punch above its weight in quality. If they make another Predator film, do you think someone should just try talking to him? Maybe get to the root of the anger problem? Yeah, that's not going to work. I think Predator is the cultural differences between our culture, our human cultures, and Predator cultures are too big to breach in that kind of thing. Hammer House of Horror, the only TV program that made me want to go into a telephone box. Prisoner Theme is an all-time great, up there with Hawaii Five-0. Yeah, unfortunately, Hawaii Five-0 had Jack Lord in it. And the weird thing about that is the series was crazy popular, but everybody hated Jack Lord's guts because he was an asshole. And the series went on for a long time in spite of that. And the actors kept getting paid more and more money to work with Jack Lord, which is kind of cool. But this one's a childhood favorite, and people in Australia and maybe a couple of other markets will know it. Yeah, some of the episodes of Hammer House of Horror were better than the Hammer films. Here we go. Ready? Marine Boy, anime, Japanese anime, about a boy who works for an undersea army, basically, and has a girlfriend called Neptina, who's a mermaid, and he's got a pet dolphin called Splasher, who never seemed to surface for oxygen. Got a good theme song too, the Marine Boy theme song. If you look that up on YouTube, you're going to find it. But how many discs have I got of this? 3 discs, and it's put out by Warner Brothers, I think. But Marine Boy is a deep cut. It came along the same time as things like Astro Boy and Prince Planet and all those other anime. But I really like Marine Boy. It's got that really simple Japanese anime style at the time, which was done on incredible shoestring budgets. But if you haven't seen Marine Boy, you might want to check it out because it's a lot of fun. And they've got a number of episodes on here too. There's like maybe 20, 25 episodes. Eighth Man and Astro. Eighth Man was great. I liked Eighth Man. Towboard the Eighth Man, always good. Marine Boy used to screen on the BBC in the late 1970s. Yeah. Again, it's very simple stuff, but if you watch it from the viewpoint of how they tell the story with very limited animation, it really holds up well. And you can excuse the story, the plotting, and the other things, but just watching the way they do the animation makes it a very useful thing in these days. And that simple style of old school Japanese animation, where they're basically duplicating frames in the animation to save money, influenced a lot of people who are doing online animation now. There are people who emulate that style, and anime is endlessly fascinating. If you look at modern anime, particularly some of the things that are being put out by the streaming services, the storytelling in a lot of modern anime is incredibly good, and the ways of portraying violence are influencing things like John Wick and other real live action stuff rather than the other way around. So anime is kind of influencing in a positive way the ability to tell stories with action in other films. Yeah, I remember Prince Planet. One of the things, when we were in Japan in 2019, I saw a Prince Planet wind-up toy, but it would have cost me like $400. It was in Nakano Broadway in Tokyo. And I would have loved to have had that Prince Planet toy, but unfortunately it was way out of my budget. But yeah, Prince Planet was great. I've got a Prince Planet t-shirt which has Prince Planet's medallion on it, sitting about there. You can still buy them. If you look around, you can still buy Prince Planet t-shirts, which are very, very groovy. And the grooviest thing about them is people don't know what they are. You can have like a Kimber the White Lion. Absolutely. Kimber the White Lion. I'm still pissed off that Disney stole Kimber the White Lion for The Lion King and acted like it was an original product when it definitely wasn't. Kimber was good storytelling too. I mean, beautiful animation, good storytelling, and it works. Yep, and middle-aged good girl. I agree with that statement because Disney is the evil empire. And the only good part of Disney really is Marvel, because it it's kind of keeping its soul a little bit more than other things. The other one of the interesting things I found out too is one of the reasons why Samaritan didn't work as a movie, going back to what I was speaking of before, is that Disney acquired all of the assets of Warner Brothers at the time Samaritan was in production. And Disney, because they weren't Disney-made productions and all of the executives in Disney had nothing to do with the creation of a whole bunch of films and TV series, they basically chucked them away. They kind of demonetized them. They cut their budgets. They cut the productions down. They destroyed some productions as well. Because even though Disney acquired all the assets of Warner Brothers, they didn't want any of them to be successful because they wouldn't get the credit for it. Yeah, John Carter, absolutely. John Carter works for me. I mean, I think that the casting was maybe less than it should have been, but the storytelling and it was difficult to sell 100-year-old intellectual property that wasn't really on anyone's attention radar. Yeah, it was 20th Century Fox, I think. I apologize, Brian. Thank you for correcting me. Do I buy in Australia internationally? It can take a while for things to get here from overseas. I do buy from Zavi, so I get Arrow Video things, and I also get some indicator stuff and a few other things. But it can be problematic. Amazon's a little hit and miss with some of the things. So I can get some things quicker by going to Amazon. But there's a box set of a series of movies I wanted from Germany. And I looked at what Amazon was charging, but then I went to eBay and found I could get it for like $5 cheaper for this box set with postage by going to eBay and getting somebody to do it. So here in Australia, what you do is you kind of take a multiple approach. You try to find it locally. If it's not available locally, you go to something like Amazon. And if it's not available at a reasonable price from Amazon, you go to Zavi. And then if that doesn't work, you go to eBay. So if you're really interested in getting something specific, and increasingly I'm getting these specific things for the channel, you've got to take that kind of, if not this, then that, and jump around to the different providers and find someone who has it at a reasonable price. And even though some things are quite expensive because our exchange rates are a little bit egregious at the moment, you can find them if you really are passionate about them. Yeah, Princess of Mars, John Carter's a loose adaptation. You can't take a story that's 100 years old and not fiddle with the adaptation in a modern context. And there are things like, John Carter was a Confederate soldier, so basically he's on the side of slavery. You got to tweak that one a little bit too. Let's see, I've got a couple of more things on the movie list, the TV list. Let's see, big fat box sets. I had to get this one because I loved it, and I've loved it since the 1960s. The Adam West Batman series. Had to pick that up. There's 3 hours of extras on this box set, which is kind of cool. Who put this out? Does it say? Roadshow put it out. But yeah, the original Batman TV series. I'm not saying the original Batman movie because first one was in the 1940s. They've all been remastered. They really are great. And my first big TV crush was Batgirl, played by Yvonne Craig. And I'm glad I've got that in my collection now. The guest villains are always great because there are so many cool Hollywood villains in there. And of course, you've got Cesar Romero and Burgess Meredith and Frank Gorshin and Eli Wallach turned up in one of them. It's just so much fun and so many deep cuts of culture that turn up in the Batman series. And I'm really glad I've got that in my collection now, and I can, when I have the time and the inclination, just sit down and watch a few episodes of Batman. Also saw the Batman movie when it came out in the cinemas. And I also had a Batman utility belt when I was a kid too, which was very cool because it had a batarang, it had a flashlight attached to it, it had all sorts of things. But yeah, that one I like having in my collection, and it warms the cockles of my heart to have it there. Yeah, Philip Jose Farmer. Absolutely. I mean, Philip Jose Farmer was so influential. His Wold Newton universe influenced things like The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the graphic novels first, and then the very, very ordinary movie. But yeah, let's see. Signed up for Umbrella Entertainment and Arrow Films, but you're having issues with your multi-region players. It's not as multi-region as I said it was, Ali. Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, we do okay with them here. Multi-region's doing really well. And I think that things that are on 4K I like because there's no region coding on a 4K disc. But region locking, I hate. I have a passionate hatred of, because it limits the ability to see interesting film, even though you're willing to pay for it. And that disappoints me. I mean, I always thought it was a stupid thing. Hey, remember when they region locked VHS? And you had to either have a multi-region player for that as well, or you had to there was a way to have a box between two players. Thank you, Richard. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Actually, I've got to play something from the soundboard when somebody does a super chat. Let's see. We'll give you the.
You do it for Randolph Scott.
Randolph Scott.
So I get to play the soundboard anytime someone does a super chat. Riverwell is the whole humanity's there, everyone who ever lived. Yeah, absolutely. And M.E. Cass, M.E. Canadian $2. Thank you very much for that. I'll do a different soundboard sound for you.
It's good to be the king.
Bit of Mel Brooks. Actually, I'll give you guys an extra one as well, which is Vincent Gill from the movie Stone. Really going to have to add to the soundboard for the next live stream that I do. I did these ones at the last minute when I remembered that the soundboard functions, and I can add so many different sound effects to the soundboard, which is always a lot of fun. Let me have a look here. And this still remains my favorite one. William Conrad from The Naked Jungle.
Marabunta.
Yep. World of Tears is pretty good. Brian Lee, I read all of those as well. I also read things like Blown, the kind of adult novels that Philip Jose Farmer wrote. He was such a breakthrough guy, particularly in representation. There are stories of his like The Lovers, which really were like 20 or 30 years ahead of their time when they came out. And yeah, and also things like Doc Savage's Apocalyptic Life and Tarzan. Was it Tarzan Alive or Tarzan Survive or something like that? Those ones are really interesting as well. I like those a lot. Region lock is a pain for Criterion collecting. Region free Sony Blu-ray players work for you so far. Yeah, I'm glad. I mean, region coding is just the bane of physical media collection. But fortunately, I've got a couple of multi-region Blu-ray players, and I'm very, very happy with those, because just having that access to international cinema, and also things like even if what Japanese movies or movies that come out of Taiwan, and Taiwanese movies on DVD are quite affordable. You can find things that aren't available here in Australia in local releases by going through Taiwan, and yes, they've been released on DVD here. But Anthony Munn says, I think Batgirl was everybody's crush back then. I don't know. You know, there were certain guys that were more crushing on Burt Ward than they were on Batgirl. But yeah, the kind of tight purple costume was kind of interesting. And the way Yvonne Craig moved, because she was a trained dancer, drew my attention. Strelnikov, thank you for popping in. 3-day holiday there. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy the 3-day holiday. Just chill out and do all the things that you probably shouldn't do, but you really want to. Let's have a look here. World of Tears would have made a superb open world video game. Yeah, I'm playing open world video games at the moment. Well, I'm playing one open world video game at the moment. I'm still playing Skyrim because people keep putting out mods for Skyrim, and so they expand the game really well. Have I heard the science fiction novel Zam by Patrick Tilley? Yeah, but I don't think I've read it at all because there were just too many at that time. There still are too many. And I've got to do more science fiction novels because apart from anything else, I've got friends who keep writing them. And I'm going to do this again anyway because I love it.
Marabunta.
William Conrad. I may have to do a pantheon of Terry Talks movies actors, and William Conrad will be on them. Yep. Oh, it's Labor Day, so that's good. Yeah, Labor Day, comrade. We have Labor Day here, but it's in March, which used to be called 8-Hour Day because it was the first place in the world really where it was legislated that people got 8 hours work, 8 hours play, 8 hours sleep. And there's a monument to the 8-hour day here in Melbourne, which has got 3 8s on a big plinth. And it's right next to Trades Hall. Yeah, Yvonne Craig as the Orion slave girl. They've since retconned the Orions in a way that makes it a lot less sexist, which I kind of don't mind. I think that nuance is important in these things. Just you always have to work on Labor Day. That sucks. That's not irony. That's slavery, mate. Colwell says, love to see some Ian M. Banks science fiction made into movies or 10-part TV shows. Absolutely. The lovely thing about Ian M. Banks' stuff is it's even more utopian than Star Trek. And the visuals would be eye-popping. And the fact that his ideology was always on his sleeve when he wrote these novels, the culture novels of Ian M. Banks. Watch a Jerry Lewis movie for Labor Day. Why? I mean, the only Jerry Lewis movie I really like is The Nutty Professor. The rest of them, his shtick really doesn't land for me. But yeah, Ian M. Banks. If you can't get them, if they're not going to make it into movies or TV series, people should read the novels. They really are complex and interesting. Labor Day telethon was a thing in the US. Thank you, Justin, for clarifying that. But yeah, I'm the French. I don't like Jerry Lewis. So, yeah, I mean, I like Dean Martin a lot more. I like the fact that Dean Martin did such good work as an actor when everybody was writing him off as like a second banana to Jerry Lewis when Martin and Lewis split up. He did things like Rio Bravo and Some Came Running and a whole bunch of other movies showing his chops as an actor. And then after that, he just cruised. Is that the Day the Clown Cried or something like that? The Jerry Lewis movie set in a concentration camp? I think rather than Tears of a Clown, because I think Tears of a Clown was a song by Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. But well, the Day the Clown Cried, if that comes out, people are going to go, oh, yeah, okay. Or they'll make fun of it. I don't think it'll really be something that'll top everybody's media viewing. Okay, did a marathon for charity every year. Thank you, Jack. Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that The Other Side of the Wind came out and that somebody finally edited together Orson Welles' last movie that came out on Netflix. It's a pity it hasn't come out on physical media. It'd be nice if someone like Criterion got hold of the rights from Netflix and put it out as physical media. I think that, and I'm really impressed with The Other Side of the Wind. I like it as a film. Theme song for Platoon played over and over again when I bought the video game for the movie. Played a heck of a lot more than the game. Some good friends have a side of cosplay for cons and such called Orion's Envy. Yeah, Visit to a Small Planet. Yeah, that one was based. Who was it about? Truman Capote wrote the original stage play. I think either that or Yeah, it might have been Truman Capote or Gore Vidal or one of those guys. Wrote the original play of Visit to a Small Planet. Gore Vidal, there you go. Thank you, Lee. Knew it was a gay guy from America in the 1960s. Sorry for the cough. Last box set. This one people are going to like. I have no doubt. Excuse me for that. Yeah, I have a mute button. This one I wanted ever since I had the T-shirt when I was like 6 years old. Have Gun Will Travel, the complete series with Richard Boone. That is a big baby. And I love it. Gene Roddenberry wrote some episodes of this as well. But yeah, I love Have Gun Will Travel. Now, the problem is, Eric, if I don't mute the coughs, some people are listening to the video with earphones on, and it knocks people's eardrums out. But yeah, Have Gun Will Travel. Really love that. I'm going to see if I can find a Have Gun Will Travel T-shirt. I think I've got to do that at some stage. But yeah. Thank you, Middle-Aged Geek Girl. I appreciate the fact that you backed me up on that. Yeah, Paladin, absolutely. Really great. Not particularly inexpensive here, but I might have got it on a 20% off sale. But Have Gun Will Travel, really underrated series. I think that yeah, and again a good theme song. It has a fantastic theme song, and the origin story of Paladin's really interesting too, where Richard Boone plays both the Nemesis and Paladin himself. A guy called Smoke. Looks like Jesse Ventura in Predator, much cooler than Jesse Ventura has ever been. Yeah, but yeah, I'm going to make a note of look up Have Gun Will Travel T-shirts, and even his business card was cool. I mean, Paladin was always a gun for hire in a sense, but he had a moral code, and he was just that much different than a lot of the cowboy shows and all the other westerns that came out in the 1950s. And I think that wide open format that it had worked in his favor. And having an actor with Richard Boone's chops in the leading role was not a bad thing either. But yeah, Have Gun Will Travel was great. So let's see. What else have I been watching? I'll probably do a little bit of. Justin says, have the first 4 seasons, not the last one. Paladin was a thinking man's bounty hunter. Absolutely. He was intelligent and he was strategic as well. He thought his way through things rather than just shooting his way through things. The role was originally offered to Randolph Scott, who also worked with Richard Boone in one of the renowned westerns that Bud Bedecker made. But yeah, just give me a few moments. I'm going to get my letterboxed up and just talk about some of the things that I haven't talked about on the channel that I've watched in the last bit, as far as movies are concerned, because I have watched some things that I kind of want to recommend. Let's have a look here. Didn't like that. Didn't like that. I did pick up Con Air, the Jerry Bruckheimer movie with Nicolas Cage in it. That was a fun rewatch. It makes no sense at all. It's not logical at all. And it's that over the top 1990s action stuff. But rewatching Con Air, yeah, kids these days would say he's the old Mandalorian. Yeah, but Mandalorian is never going to be as cool as Paladin. I don't have a green screen. Oh, that green screen over there. Yeah, that one. What I should do is actually throw that on the ground and do some footage of it with like a time tunnel effect in it, in the floor, because I've got 2 green screens. I've got that, and I've got a big swatch of green screen cloth that I clamp to the bookshelves or the video shelves. But yeah, I really should play around with that green screen a little bit more, particularly when the weather's good. I can go outside and do some interesting, weird things with it as summer approaches. And I may well do that because they're fun to play with. And green screen technology is so easy to do when you're editing video. If you do it right, you've got to have the screen a certain distance away from the back of myself. Plus, I have to have a light shining on the green screen. Otherwise, I'll get a lot of edge effects. But yeah, it's a lot of fun to play with. And learning new technologies is never a bad thing. Yeah, Con Air and Face Off. 90s were a weird time. Yeah, absolutely. They were. There was that kind of over the topness about the 1990s. And it was an interesting time. I mean, a lot of Tarantino's early stuff came out in the 90s, of course. Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs blew everybody away. The Big Lebowski. I remember people at a previous screening, I went to see The Big Lebowski for a review. And people were sitting in the aisles because there weren't enough seats and just really grooving on that as well. Mick 507, thank you. Good night, Mick, and take care and stay well. Yeah, Mandalorian will never be as cool as Lone Wolf and Cub. Absolutely. I've got the box set of Lone Wolf and Cub. And that one's a really based on a manga as well. So, the idea of adapting graphic novels to movies is not a new thing. The Japanese did it so well for so long. Oh, I've got to show you this. I've got a new toy in the man cave. And it's environmentally friendly. So I picked this up at the supermarket by the way. Have a look at that. I found a tiki god at the supermarket, which is very groovy, and it sits up on the big computer there. And I love it. And the best thing about it is it's solar powered. So I hit the mic stand. It's solar powered. I set it underneath my desk light, and then I can go like that, and it glows. And I love that. I love dumb little things like that sometimes, and it's good to have those kind of decorations around. I'm going to do a man cave renovation at some stage because there's a lot of shit around here I don't need and I can repurpose or give to other people. And, just things like technology and stuff like that, not even movies or anything. But, yeah, I'm really going to have to do it. I'm keeping all the vinyl. So the vinyl there, I've got a whole bunch of that stuff. And I've got a turntable behind that Ocean's 11 poster there. So there's a lot I want to do with this, and I'll probably do it over the warmer months. And there's my Vincent Price pop vinyl up there as well. So many cool things in this place that I've got to resist the temptation when I do clean up the man cave as well to just sit there and play with things. I think that's a problem we all have with stuff. When you take things out of boxes and try to sort them to get rid of things or to pass them on to people who can find them more useful, there's a tendency to just sit there and look through things and play with things. And I've got to find a way to resist that. Maybe I've got to do a Pomodoro where you work for 25 minutes and then take 5 minutes off because I'm never going to get it fixed if I don't do that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of detritus of the 20s. And middle-aged girl says, "No, I'm not helping my ADHD. Will go into overdrive." Absolutely. I'm not going to ask you to help. It's going to be a work in progress. It's going to be like I'll do half a square meter and then another half a square meter. How about one of the front rooms as a man cave museum? No, the front rooms are middle-aged gig girls. She's got her office in there and her recording studio for her YouTube channel. Sally, post a link to your YouTube channel, which is craft stuff. But yeah, I would never dare do that. I've got the back room for the Blu-rays and DVDs. I've got the man cave here. And I've got my viewing area, which is separate from her viewing area. Just go to the name on your avatar there if people want to see Sal's channel. And she does some interesting things with craft. And like me with the umbrella stuff, she's starting to get some freebies, which is kind of nice. When you do a YouTube channel, you do it for love, but if you kind of persist at it, occasionally people throw product at you. Ali Powers, thank you for the £1.79. I appreciate all support to the channel, however small. But yeah, Heath over at Serial at Midnight YouTube channel has some interesting things to say about the fact that we live in a golden age of physical media. Things are available that were never going to be available. Things are resurrected, things are found, but everything's available now. There's so many things that are. There are things that aren't. There's things that I want available, like a whole series of Run for Your Life with Ben Gazzara, which hasn't turned up yet. But there are a lot of things that are available now that are really interesting and let us fill in the gaps in the history of popular culture in the 20th century, particularly. So many movies, so many TV shows, so many documentaries and things like that. There's just such a rich ability to be able to see things that we remembered but haven't been able to access before now. Ali Powell says, one of Amanda Plummer's first roles was in Static. I really hope they remastered. I had to buy it on Canadian VHS about 15 years ago. Yeah, Amanda Plummer, I've seen in a couple of things. And even in Pulp Fiction, she takes that kind of edgy character and gives her a compassionate feel. Was she in So I Married an Axe Murderer? I think she was the villain ultimately in So I Married an Axe Murderer. And she made that character sympathetic, even though she was mad as a cut snake. But one of those underrated actresses. There are so many of them because they don't have traditional good looks, tend to get underestimated and underregarded in cinema. And Amanda Plummer's definitely one of those actresses who, kind of in the way that Jennifer Jason Leigh is, she was great most recently that I recall in things like The Hateful Eight. Her character in that is totally insane, but you can understand why she is, given the misogynistic and brutal culture she lives in. Just so many of them. The Invaders, the Quinn Martin production, found the complete series on DVD. Jack says, never got to see the whole series until now. Yeah, and that series was created by the wonderful Larry Cohen. I think that I'm never going to like Roy Thinnes as an actor. I think he's very light. I think he's a featherweight in the acting chops. But the concept is there, and it's kind of got that feel of The Fugitive, which I think has been released on disc as well, with David Jansen. Any TV series David Jansen was in, The Fugitive, Richard Diamond, Harry O, all of those series are crazy cool. Particularly Harry O. I like Harry O a lot because I think that the character has got a little depth. He's kind of like Rockford in a sense, but Jim Rockford. But I think that I like Harry O a little bit more because Harry O is kind of curmudgeonly, and he's got back injuries, and his backstory is quite off-putting. But I like Harry O a lot, and I'm going to have to try to find some of that when money makes itself magically available to me. Yeah, The Prisoner with Patrick McGowan, that's an eternal one. We went to Port Merion too in 2004. And Sal doesn't like it because she got food poisoning there. Yeah, the opening to Harry O really works. And Jansen was one of those actors who never really hit the highs another number of other actors did. But he was always solidly believable and reliable. He was grounded, and everything he did had a kind of verisimilitude about it that I really appreciated. Yeah, Rick, do search for Harry O. I think there is a pilot episode on YouTube which has Jodie Foster in it as a kid. But yeah, The Fugitive was great, and The Fugitive was the first. I only found this out recently too, because I research these things. The Fugitive was the first episodic TV series that had an ending episode. It had a resolution at the end of it. No series before that really had that. It didn't wrap up the story arc. It just series just disappeared after a while and didn't have that long story arc that something like the Fugitive had. And I kind of like that. I like the fact that that was a breakthrough and a change in the way that stories were told. in episodic TV formats. So I really should try to find The Fugitive and save up my pennies and get a copy of that, because also the lovely thing about something like The Fugitive is the guest actors in those series were fantastic as well. You get kind of people who were dropped from when the studio system collapsed in the 1950s, who were doing episodic television and are really good at it. There's an episode of Route 66 with Dan Duryea playing an alcoholic father. And the acting by Dan Duryea in that episode is mind-blowingly good. It is incredibly, intensely better than the format required, and is a heartbreaking and kind of deep cut kind of acting role that you can do when you come into a series for one episode. And the stars are generous enough to make the space for the guest actors to really shine. And I think that's something that these episodic TV shows had going for them too. The lead actors were making so many episodes in such a short period of time that they got a break when a guest actor really shone. 70s TV did have good guest actors. And there are things like The Love Boat, where they got everybody who still had a pulse as a guest actor, and Fantasy Island. There were all of those kind of series in the 1970s, but I think the 60s, when you're looking at dramatic roles in TV series, there are a lot of really, really solid actors who got to shine. Yeah, Columbo. Yeah, absolutely. Columbo still holds up. Patrick McGowan was in Columbo a couple of times, and every couple of weeks, Robert Culp would play another villain in Columbo as well. Another actor who was really fine. Richard says, I'm 57. Up until last year, I always believed Quinn Martin were two people. Who's to say he wasn't? I mean, he may have had dual personalities. The dead and dying cast of The Love Boat. Yeah, that's like that movie, The Finks. I talked about that in a previous video. The Finks, where they basically do a roll call of superannuated Hollywood actors, some of whom were probably not too sure where they were and what they were doing at the time. But yeah, just old TV, Charlie One Eye with Roy Thinners in it. Yeah, bad performances. That I could do a whole series of videos on bad performances by actors pretending to be ethnicities that they're not. There are just so many of those. John Wayne playing Genghis Khan in The Conqueror, which ultimately killed half the cast with radioactive sand. All of those kind of things. Marlon Brando in what was it? Into the Sixth Happiness? No, it wasn't Into the Sixth Happiness. In Sayonara. And the worst case, of course, being Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Yeah, as a middle-aged geek girl says Mickey Rooney. But Mickey Rooney kind of diminished that film in an incredible way. I think that there are actors in certain roles in certain films that dim the light of that film forever. And Mickey Rooney in that one was definitely there. 4-Star Playhouse. The pilot episode for Run for Your Life is actually on YouTube as well with Ben Gazzara, and that's one of my favorite series that really hasn't been resurrected yet. And it was part of Craft Theatre or something like that, one of those anthology drama shows of the 1960s. And it really works. Pulse, okay. Don't know the one. Yeah, Mr. Universe was straight out of a cartoon. Yeah, a racist cartoon from the 1940s. But yeah, why didn't they get a Japanese actor to play a Japanese character? It wouldn't have been that difficult to do. Oh yeah, Twilight Zone. Actually, Twilight Zone had great actors. Outer Limits had great actors. Martin Landau did a couple of roles in Outer Limits that were really top acting as well. And then later on, things like Night Gallery, which I have here as it happens. This is the other one I didn't actually put up. The Night Gallery. In some ways, I like the Night I like Night Gallery better than I like Twilight Zone. And I know that's blasphemy, but I really like Night Gallery. I think that because it came somewhat later, it had the ability to be a little grittier, and it kind of varied between comedy and tragedy and horror. There's Green Fingers, the episode that has Cameron Mitchell and Elsa Lanchester in it. That scared the shit out of me when I first saw it. And Night Gallery is one of those series that really was part of that TV horror thing that produced Kolchak, amongst other things, in the 1970s, where the censorship was so tight that they had to use the direction to convey what was happening, and the plotting and the acting. And there were so many of those kind of horror things that could have been much better if they just had have not had such a noose around the necks of the creative people. Yeah, my favorite Night Gallery episode is the one with the hippie going to hell. I'll have to find that one because I don't remember it offhand. But yeah, Night Gallery I think works, and the music in Night Gallery I think was it Dominic Frontieri or one of those guys did the music from Night Gallery. There's an audio commentary on this by Guillermo del Toro, and that's worth the price of admission itself. By the way, if you want to have a bit of fun, Google an image search on Guillermo del Toro's house. It is the ultimate horror movie house. It is fantastically good. It's got all sorts of wonders and miracles in it. Yeah, Emmy, the titles, opening credits for Night Gallery set the tone perfectly, and then Rod Serling walking around this surreal art gallery, and the fact they did a painting for each of the episodes portraying the theme of the episode, that's next level good stuff. I think that it really shows, for a start, it shows a regard for art that a lot of series hadn't. And I just kind of like the fact that they went to that effort and put that theme as a way of kind of framing each of the stories. It really does show that kind of genius of Rod Serling. And if you can, also the TV episodes that Rod Serling did, and the movie things like Executive Suite and all of those early things that Rod Serling did in his career are worth checking out. Requiem for a Heavyweight, both the TV and the movie version. All of that stuff is, Serling did die too young. If he had to stop puffing on coffin nails, he would have lasted a lot longer. Assuming the PG on the DVD Australian ratings, yeah, it is. The Australian ratings are weird because you can, in these days, censorship ratings are kind of useless. You can have things saying this one's not supposed to be for children, but we still have a censorship bureau, and I'm not sure what it does in a world where you can access anything at the thumbing of a Black Mirror. Yeah. Jackass, my mother wouldn't let me stay for the Twilight Zone, so I got to listen to the creepy theme we're playing while I was laying in my bed in the dark. Yeah, that's a special level of hell, isn't it, really? But yeah. I did watch a little bit of Twilight Zone when I was a kid, mostly because my father would pass out drunk. It was a good opportunity to sneak out of bed and watch TV. But yeah, Twilight Zone episodes and particularly Night Gallery. Night Gallery really messed with me. Just me again. Yeah, Erie, Indiana, I've heard of, but I haven't seen any of. Around the Twist is just such a sick and wonderful. There are Around the Twist memes going around the internet now where people are talking about the most messed up episodes Around the Twist. Black Mirror is the only show in my adult life that I could only watch one episode at a time. Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. It's not a series you can binge. And I think it's a successor to all the Twilight Zones and the Night Galleries and Outer Limits and stuff like that by expressing contemporary concerns about technology and social change. And Charlie Booker is just such a great writer and such a great creative person. I want to see more of what he does. Love, Death and Robots is also good. Twilight Zone Life for Kids, I can see that. That will work. Which, of course, is what Goosebumps was. Probably like Goosebumps would be more like Night Gallery for kids. But yeah, the thing is that I like any series that get decent actors and gives them the space to act decently when they have guest stars. I think that there are just so many people with such superb talents and such superb skills that we don't see often enough. We don't see enough of, and they're just. I mean, one of the things I found out about Nope is Michael Wincott, who played a lot of villains in the 1990s, is in Jordan Peele's movie Nope, and it's nice that they're getting gigs for people like Michael Wincott and other actors who really were good and may have had troubled lives, but have skills that weren't often demonstrated very well in their earlier works. Yeah, I watched the first episode of Black Mirror. It took me a year to watch the next one. Yeah, I mean, Black Mirror is not an easy watch. If you think it's an easy watch, you're not paying attention to it. Middle-aged says, a lot of washed-up actors appear in my shark movies. Yeah, they're washed up for a reason. They're the ones who don't actually commit to and work hard on their careers. They want to be stars rather than actors. But there are actors out there that really... Clu Gulager, who just died. You know, he had such a long career as an actor, and he was always on point. Yeah, Rod Serling did turn Planet of the Apes into a great movie. Yeah, he also did. I think he worked on the screenplay for 7 Days in May with Kirk Douglas and Burt Lancaster. He turned his hand to that script as well. Yeah, The Drowned Giant I've seen. I haven't seen the second season of Love, Death and Robots yet, but The Drowned Giant is such a poignant and interesting adaptation, and they're kind of almost photorealistic animation. Really works. I haven't seen Nope yet, Ali, but I do have access to it, and I will be watching it because I like what Jordan Peele does. I also like Key and Peele, but I like what Jordan Peele does, and I think that I want to see his stuff in future. And there's a subtlety to Jordan Peele's work that often gets overlooked by people who just watch his movies in a facile way. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Nope. We're going to sit down and watch it at some stage and enjoy it. But yeah, one of the things we do watch together is She-Hulk. We're watching that at the moment because Tim Roth is such fun in that, playing the Abomination, Emil Blonsky, the Abomination. He has really enjoyed the episodes he was in that. And it's a good callback to the Incredible Hulk movie. So just me, or are there other people who enjoyed the Ang Lee Hulk more than they enjoyed the Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton in it? I get a lot of blowback from friends of mine who watch Marvel movies saying the Incredible Hulk was much better than the Eric Bana one, but I kind of like the Eric Bana one that Ang Lee did, because I think that it's a good, honest comic book adaptation. Thank you, Eric. I've got another bit of validation there. Favorite night galleries was The Caterpillar with Lawrence Harvey and the Sin Eater episode with Richard Thomas and Barbara Steele. Yeah, again, getting those interesting actors in to do things on a one episode basis. Yeah, and I actually put something up on Twitter saying that Jessica Walters, She-Hulk, should have a pet, and the pet should be the poodle from the original Hulk movie. But a lot of people didn't get that. But yeah, I mean, I like the best bit for the Hulk movie, the original one, is that battle with the Hulk dogs. I think that's such a brutal and well shot and incredibly visceral fight that I think is very, very underrated. Colin says, I'm suffering from superhero fatigue. I like WandaVision and the latest Spider-Man movie, but I've lost all interest in the genre. I think it's the thing with superheroes for me, it's like westerns or crime. You can tell a whole bunch of different stories using the same format and tell them in interesting ways. I think the problem is seeing too many of the same types of stories told in a superhero context. Yeah, the origin story, and the hero gets superpowers and then stuffs up and has to redeem himself. That character arc was seen way too often. But there are things like Ms. Marvel, which is about the immigrant experience of being a Muslim kid in America. There's She-Hulk, which is almost a sitcom. Yeah, Lucky series was a lot of fun. I agree, David. So much CG you can punch or cover CG. I don't know. I think that CG used well works really well. Yeah, middle-aged kid girl. Nope is an interesting one. I know a little bit more about it than I should going into it, but I think we're going to have to sit down and watch that together and make popcorn and move the cats off the couch. But anyway, this is about time I wrap this up because I do about 2 hours and we're hitting 2 hours. And my throat's starting to feel a bit raspy because I've been talking for 2 hours. So is there anything people want to ask before they go? And is there anybody else who wants to do a super chat before we go? I will let me see what other sound things I've got right here. Sounds. I'll go to the previous sound thing. Let's see. Wrong thing. Got that one as well. I've got the sad trombone. Yeah, I will have a great lunchtime. Yeah, thank you, David. It's not Labor Day here, but I appreciate it. And Jack, absolutely. This is fun, good list of stuff to watch. Colin, absolutely. David, you should take whenever people can show up on live streams, I'm happy with that. I really like it. But I've got to end this here because it's heading on towards lunchtime here. And I ate breakfast a long time ago because I got up at 4 a.m. trying to get things ready for this. But anyway, look after yourselves, guys. Take care of yourselves. Thank you for being a part of this because it is an interactive thing. And it is me directly having a chat with people rather than me talking at people. And I like that a lot. I like the energy that I get from that. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, David. Thank you, Jack. And thanks to Middle-Aged Geek Girl for being the moderator. I'm going to have to buy her something now because she always requires a bribe. So anyway, look after yourselves. Watch some good movies. Watch some bad movies. I'll catch you next time.